Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine. Okay, thank you to everybody who's joined and welcome to this session of studying Srimad Bhagavatam. Very, very interesting chapter we are on today. So this is Canto 8, chapter 3, which is Gajendra's prayer of surrender. We're very fortunate. We have some beautiful prayers in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And I always think we should have like one dedicated session for learning the prayers of various devotees. Because that'll teach us how to address the Lord and how to come to the stage of surrender. I don't know if you all had the chance to read this particular chapter. There's some beautiful verses here recited by Gajendra the elephant. Just for background, we are not going to cover the whole story of Gajendra Moksha Leela because I think you already have done it. But we are at this stage now where Gajendra has turned towards the Lord after trying everything else that he could possibly think of. So Gajendra was the king of elephants. He had all the possible opulences that one could think of, name, fame, beauty, money, everything. But when he was caught by the crocodile, none of these things could save him. And this actually teaches us that how soon the material situation we are in can change. Within seconds, things can change. We may think that we are very well situated, everything is perfect. We have managed to do. There's always this thing, right? All of us, we think, I once I have this, and this, then life is perfect. And by reading about Gajendra, we should realize, we should learn that in this material world, padam padam yad vipatam, meaning there is a problem, there is going to be some kind of something that'll, some distress that'll come uninvited, right? So one must realize that this material world is not made for a place where we can achieve any kind of permanent happiness. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, no matter how much we try, right? So here Gajendra is caught in this crocodile's mouth. He tried everything. He couldn't obviously save himself, and at that time, he turned towards the Lord. He took shelter of the Lord. Although he was born an animal, he had elevated consciousness, and he was able to remember the Supreme Lord and pray to him. Because obviously he remembered his past life as King Indradyumna, and in his past life he was a devotee. So there are a couple of there are many interesting points and that we should learn. But like one we learned is that, okay, material world is a place of miseries, and you cannot think that I'm comfortable and nothing will go wrong. But the other thing is that Krishna is very merciful, and he will give you the opportunity to remember in your past life. Anytime you've done any service to Krishna, Krishna will not forget. And that's exactly what's happening with Gajendra here. So from verses 2 to 29 of this chapter are all prayers. There are 28 beautiful prayers. Some of them first describing the Lord's transcendental power, his position, and then the others where he's speaking to the Gajendra is almost like speaking to the Lord, knowing that the Lord is witness to everything, understanding that the Lord is within his heart, within everybody's heart, like that. In the purport of verse 1, Prabhupada says that every soul in need of shelter, every soul. So what Prabhupada is saying is that every soul should try and perfect chanting of some mantra. So Prabhupada says, of course, we have the Maha Mantra, we have our Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but one should also try and practice some other mantras from our scriptures. Like Gajendra had mastered this particular mantra that he is going to now recite. So each devotee, Prabhupada said, should practice in order to chant some mantra perfectly. And why? He gives a reason that even though we may be imperfect in our spiritual consciousness, at least by trying to perfect the chanting of mantras in our next life, we will not forget our Krishna consciousness. Of course, Prabhupada is warning, and he's making us aware and conscious that obviously we should try to perfect our Krishna consciousness in this life itself. But if that doesn't happen, then we should be hopeful that by learning mantras or performing devotional activities, Krishna will not forget us. He will give us the chance to remember again. For example, Ajamil, he was a devotee of the Lord, and he did great service to the Lord. Yes, eventually he forgot all of that and he took to the wrong path. But at the time of death, Lord Narayan was so merciful that although he didn't remember it, but he gave him the opportunity to chant the Lord's name just by calling out to his son. And even in that, the Lord reciprocated. So that's the whole point, that just because of chanting, so we should not ever give up the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra under any circumstances. Okay. And then now let's see the prayers. So from verses 2 starts the prayers that Gajendra is reciting. And you will notice, if any of you have studied the chapter, you will notice that each verse actually is highlighting some great power about the Lord. So like verse 2 talks about how Krishna is the root cause of everyone. So verse 2 says, where Gajendra says, I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Lord. He is the Supreme Person. He is the root cause of everything, right? Now imagine Gajendra is in a very, very painful situation, being caught in the. Just give me 1 second, please. I'll just get a glass of water. Sorry, from the time all of us have come back from India, we've all got this dry cough. It's perhaps mostly related to the dust, but yeah, that's how it is. Yeah, so currently Gajendra is in a very, very difficult situation. Being caught in the crocodile's jaws, he is in a painful situation, but even in that situation that he is in, he is able to pray to the Lord. So, and Prabhupada, in the purport of this particular verse, emphasizes on one very important point. And what he's emphasizing on, or what he's addressing, is Krishna's ability to convert matter to spirit. So, in this verse, the words Eta Chit Atmakam, this is from the purport, are very important. And what Prabhupada says is the material body certainly consists only of material elements. But when one awakens to Krishna conscious understanding, the body is no longer material, but it becomes spiritual. And then, of course, Prabhupada goes on to give some examples, like he gives the example of the Archa Vigraha form, or the deity in the temple. Now, the deity in the temple is made of material elements, whether it is made of metal or stone or whatever it is. But because the Lord is present in the deity, that form is no longer material and it becomes spiritual. Likewise, all of us, although we are in this material body, if we awaken our Krishna consciousness while being in the material body, we are able to reach much above this material platform. You know, that's what Prabhupada is talking about. Okay, this chapter is quite long, so I'm going to try and finish. And there are some really very important points, but we'll see. We'll try and finish everything. Verse 3, Gajendra talks and addresses the Lord that you are the cause of everything in existence, yet different from both the cause and the result. So everything is resting in him, and yet he is different. Nothing of this material world can ever affect the Lord, right? Although he's in it, but he's not in it, like that. So Prabhupada in the purport writes, the original cause of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after being annihilated, everything enters into him, right? So he is the cause of everything. Everything comes from him. It's maintained by him. After annihilation, everything goes back into him. In the purport, Prabhupada uses the analogy of the pot and the earth. I won't go into too much detail into it, but if you have the time, please read the analogy. He's simply explaining how the pot is made of earth. The potter who is making the pot, he's also, if you think about it, the material body of the potter is also made of, one of the elements is earth. The wheel that he is using also has these elements. So everything is actually, so he uses this same analogy, how then Krishna or Lord Ram, he also gives the example of Lord Ram, they are the original cause of everything, like that. Then text 4 is addressing again the same thing. He creates, he annihilates, he is both the cause and the result. So similar to what text 3 was. And in the purport, Prabhupada points out to the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Lord. Although the Lord creates the universe through his potencies, he is infallibly the supreme observer. Under any circumstances, the Supreme Lord is changeless. So the idea where some people in the Bhagavad Gita, this point has been addressed, that fools think that when Krishna descends as a little boy in Vrindavan, he is also under the modes of material nature. He's also under the control of the modes of material nature. But that is not so. When you read the Bhagavatam time and time again, and here Gajendra is also saying the same thing, that although he is the cause, he is the controller, he is the annihilator, but he does not come under the control of these modes of material nature. like that. Okay. Text 5. In text 5, the same topic again. It says, text, I'll just read the text 5. In due course of time, when all the causative and effective manifestations of the universe, including the planets and the directors and maintainers, are annihilated, there is a situation of dense darkness. Above this darkness, however, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I take shelter of his lotus feet. So the point is that he existed before creation. He is there during the creation. He will exist after creation. So he is always there. One cannot, our concept of time where you think there is a beginning and an end, with the Supreme Lord, you cannot have, there is no beginning and end. He is always there. He is eternal. That is why we say he's eternal, right? Prabhupada again uses a very nice analogy in the Verpatan. He says that he compares the Supreme Lord to the sun. Right now, for us, it is evening, the sun is set, we can't see the sun. But that doesn't mean that in other part of the world, the sun is not there. The sun is shining somewhere else, right? Similarly, the Supreme Lord is always luminous, even when the entire cosmic manifestation is annihilated. In text 6, Gajendra actually humbles himself. And he's saying that I am only an unintelligent animal. So, how can I possibly recognize him? This is a very interesting verse. And I'll read a little bit of the verse, and I want to see if you remember where else this similar kind of feeling was expressed by another devotee. Okay. So it says here, an artist on stage being covered by attractive dresses and dancing with different movements is not understood by his audience. Similarly, the activities and features of the supreme artist cannot be understood even by the demigods or great sages, and certainly not by those who are unintelligent like animals. Do you remember where else a similar kind of verse was spoken by a devotee? Anybody remembers? Exercise your brains a little bit. Nobody? Nobody? Okay. So this exactly same emotions were expressed by Queen Kunti in her prayers. This is in Canto 1, chapter 8, verse 19. It's a very beautiful verse, and I will just recite that verse. Maya Javanika Channam Agyana Adhokshajam Avyayam Na Lakshayashe Mudha Drisha Nato Natya Dharo Yatha. And the translation is, being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. So the same emotions are being expressed by Queen Kunti, and the same expressions are being expressed by Gajendra here also. So Gajendra is saying that I am an unintelligent animal. How will I possibly recognize him? Queen Kunti is saying that how can a foolish observer, how can somebody who doesn't have the intelligence recognize? Just like when you go to see a movie or a play or whatever, and when you see the actors on stage, there are many times that you're so engrossed in the play that you actually forget that this is a character, right? I'm sure many of you must have shed tears also at the death of your favorite character, or, it happens because you forget that this is just acting. So you don't understand, you don't recognize. There's a mask, there's a curtain that's covering. And that's exactly what Gajendra is saying, that how will I recognize? Because Krishna is, how can you perceive the mysteries of Krishna's appearances? And Prabhupada writes in the purport that even great yogis, demigods, saints, and sages have not been able to understand the bodily features of this great artist. So Gajendra says how a foolish animal, an unintelligent animal, can understand. Then text 7 is talking about how um, great sages and devotees or renunciates aspire to see the Lord's lotus feet, right? Um, Understanding that the Supreme Lord is the friend and benefactor and well wisher of everybody. Um, and he acts as a friend to everyone. Prabhupada writes in the purport, Shudram Sarva Bhutanam. So he acts as friend to everybody. He doesn't make any kind of. Prabhupada actually is talking about what is the consciousness required for those able to see the Supreme Lord. And the consciousness required is that you see everybody as part of Krishna. You show your compassion to everybody, trying to bring everybody closer to Krishna. And these people are paramhamsas, and they are always aspiring to see the lotus feet of Krishna, not just for themselves. They want the same for everybody else. And that is the reason why Srila Prabhupada traveled all the way from India to the Western world, because he wanted this. He wanted to give this opportunity to each and every one of us. So you see how in the previous verse, it's very clearly being said that um, unintelligent people or people who are animals or unintelligent people cannot see the Lord. But if we get the mercy of a great devotee, a pure devotee of the Lord, a paramhamsa, then there is chance that yes, we also can see the Lord's lotus feet. You see, that's it's really nice the way it is being described here. Uh, Text 8 and 9 goes on to actually just offer respects and prayers to the Supreme Lord. Um, and in the purport, Prabhupada notes that everything that the Supreme Lord does is completely transcendental, and it is not influenced by matter at all. Matter can never influence or control any of the activities of the Supreme Lord. He is above all of it, right? And then Prabhupada reminds us in the purport of a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says to Arjuna that anybody who understands this transcendental nature of my birth and activities will never take birth again in this material world. Right? Okay, so yeah, verses 8 and 9 are more about prayers. They are talking about how the Lord appears in human-like form to fulfill the purpose of his creation, but we must understand that he is not an ordinary human being. You know, the reason he appears or the reason he comes down is because he wants to perform different leelas, but he never comes under the he's never forced to come like us. We are forced to take different kinds of forms of birth because of our karma. The Lord is not subjected to any such kinds of things. He is totally independent. Okay. Yeah. In text 10, Gajendra talks about how the super soul or the Supreme Lord cannot be understood no matter what you do unless the Lord wants you to understand him, right? So Prabhupada is emphasizing the process of becoming enlightened. And he says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna cannot be understood by the individual soul through mental, physical, or intellectual exercises. It is by the grace of the Supreme Lord of Godhead that the individual soul is enlightened. So, this brings us actually to Kartik has just ended yesterday. So it brings us to this very beautiful pastime where we see that Mother Yashoda is trying to catch hold of Krishna because he's broken this pot of butter. And she is trying so hard. And remember, there's many acharyas who presented this in so many different ways. And one of the teachings from there is two fingers too short. Every time she tries to bind Krishna, the rope is two fingers too short. And it is told that those two fingers is, one is of course your endeavor, but the other is the mercy of Krishna. And this verse is saying exactly the same thing. Yes, we must try. It's not that we just sit back and say, okay, Krishna will be merciful on me. Why will he be merciful unless he sees the desire from within you? So, but however, it doesn't mean that just because you have the desire and just because you're doing whatever you think is right, Krishna will reveal himself. Again, you cannot force Krishna to do anything. He will reveal himself when he thinks the time is right for you, right? So that's what Gajendra is saying this. Um, and then in the next couple of verses, Gajendra actually is feeling or he is thinking of Krishna's mercy, Krishna's grace, Krishna's compassion, and he's addressing those. So in verse 11 he says that Krishna, he is the bestower of uncontaminated happiness and is the master of the transcendental world, and I offer my respect unto him. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains that bhakti is much more than an absence of material motivation in one's activities. So one may think that I'm doing this. Let's say I'm going to the manor during Janmashtami and I'm doing various kind of services, and I don't have any material motivation for it. But only that is not called bhakti. So Prabhupada is saying bhakti is more than that. So what is bhakti is, am I doing all these activities to please Krishna? And that actually is where you start your bhakti from. Yes, you've given up your material motivations, and that is great. That's an important step. Obviously that's an important step. Not many people even can do that. But bhakti has to come out of love, not out of a sense of, this is my duty or I have to do it because if I want to be a pious person I need to do that. A bhakta is not interested in pious activities. He doesn't care about the results that he gets from pious activities. He doesn't really care about anything. What he cares about is, am I able to please the Lord? And for that, he doesn't care what the result may be. For example, when Krishna had this really bad headache, and Krishna said, the only way my headache will be cured if I can take the dust off the feet of my devotees and put it on my head. Uddhav ji went to many devotees and he said, Krishna has a very bad headache and I need the dust of your lotus feet. And the result of giving the dust of the lotus feet would be that you would spend your life in hell, right? And so there were devotees who wouldn't want to. However, when he went to the gopis immediately started collecting all the dust that they could. And Uddhav said to them, do you realize what the result is going to be? And they said, we don't care about the result as long as our Krishna's headache is cured. So you see, that is the level of devotion or bhakti that one should aspire for, wherein you don't think about yourself at all. You only think about of the object of your love. That's it, right? So Prabhupada is talking about that, of course. And then text 12, Gajendra is offering obeisances to all forms of the Lord. So this is interesting. And I'll just read the English translation here. It says, I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Vasudev, who is all pervading, to the Lord's fierce form as Lord Narsingadev, to Lord's form as an animal, to Lord Dattatreya, who preached impersonalism, to Lord Buddha, and to all the other incarnations. So he's offering obeisances to all the different forms of the Lord. So Prabhupada emphasizes about the Lord, about his incarnation. So he says, in the previous verses, it has been described that although the Supreme Personality of God has no material form, he accepts innumerable forms. Why does he do that? Just to favor his devotees. If you see any of the pastimes, you remember the pastime of Vaman Dev. Why did Krishna take the form of Vaman Dev? Now, again, we'll not go into the detail of the story. This comes in your eighth canto, actually. So perhaps you haven't come to that story. But Vaman Dev is the story of the dwarf lord. He comes, he takes this form because the mother of the demigods, Aditi, prayed that my sons are in distress and you should take, take birth from my womb and then restore what my sons have lost. And so Vaman Dev, takes the form of a dwarf and he goes to the demons and, and then there is a whole pastime. But the point is that the Lord is taking different forms just so that he can show favor to his devotees and to kill the demons. Prabhupada goes on to say that as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are so many incarnations of the Lord. They are like the waves of a river. The waves of a river flow incessantly and no one can count how many waves there are. So that way we also cannot count how many incarnations the Lord takes because the Lord is appearing perpetually. Now from text 13, the prayers take on a slightly different theme where Gajendra is seeking shelter from the Lord. And so he starts the verse 13. The first thing he starts with is that you are the owner of this body, this material body. You are the owner. I don't own the body. All of us, when we mark tilak on the different parts of our body, that's exactly what we are saying to the Lord. We are saying, my Lord, you are the owner of this body, and thus let me use this body in your service because you're the owner, right? That's how it should be. That's our consciousness. So now Gajendra is experiencing that this body, which at one time was a source of great pleasure, he had come to this beautiful lake on this beautiful Trikuta mountain surrounded by gardens and beautiful plants and trees and flowers and everything, and he was accompanied by his wife, children, friends, everything to enjoy. So this body, which was a body which was giving him pleasure, now has become the place which is causing him so much distress, right? However, he is realizing that this body is temporary. This body also belongs to Krishna, but I am an eternal soul and I am part and parcel of Krishna, right? So in this purport, Prabhupada is discussing all these truths that, everyone is thinking I'm this body or this is my body, but actually the truth is different. Our bodies are given to us by the supreme proprietor, right? The living entity, who is also Kshetragna or the knower of the body, is not the body's only proprietor. The actual proprietor is the Lord. And Prabhupada gives the analogy of, let's say, if I'm living in a house, I'm occupying a house and I'm living on rent, but the house doesn't belong to me. The landlord can come any day and say, okay, vacate this property. Likewise, this body is a house. I've been given this body for some time. The soul is engaged in this body, but if the landlord or the proprietor, who's the supreme lord, comes and says, okay, time for you to leave this body, move on to another body, you will have to follow the instructions. There's nothing that you can do. You're not in control of this body at all, right? And still we are so attached to this body and whatever is related to this body, and we forget the actual us, who actually I am, and I forget to nourish my soul. I'm so focused on looking after my temporary body. So that's what is being addressed over here. In text 14, Gajendra is talking about how we tend to think that this material world is real. And the reason we tend to think that this material world is real, because the material world is just a shadow of the spiritual world. Prabhupada says this many times in different Bhagavatam purports, that this material world is not false, right? But it is temporary. It reflects, it is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So there is a reality somewhere. And that is why we think of this material world also as real. Krishna allows it, Krishna facilitates this thing, because Krishna does not force anybody to do what they are not interested in doing. I have decided that I don't want to be with Krishna. I want to be independent. I want to enjoy independently. That is why Krishna has created this world. And he said, okay, if that's what you want to do, here you are. You go. So it is Krishna's creation, right? So Prabhupada says the living entity under the clutches of Maya want to enjoy the material world, but unless you give him directions and remind him, he cannot make progress in pursuing his shadowy objective in life. Um, Krishna is merciful Father. He knows that we have rebelled against him, but he still does not let go of us. He wants us to come back to him because that is our eternal position. He wants that we learn our lessons. Sometimes the way the lessons are learned could be difficult, but that's he wants us back. That's the main thing, right? Okay, we need to go a little bit more faster. Um, Text 15, again, a similar kind of theme. Gajendra is saying you're the cause of all causes, but you yourself have no cause. Obviously, because Krishna he is the cause of all causes. He is eternal. He is independent. In the first verse of Bhagavatam, Krishna is addressed as being Abhigya Swarat. He is totally independent. There is no cause beyond him at all, right? Okay. Text 16, Gajendra is using this analogy where he says, as fire in Arani wood is covered, you and your unlimited knowledge are covered by the material modes of nature. As soon as a soul comes into this material world, the modes of material nature, which is goodness, passion, and ignorance, start acting on us. And when we come under the influence of these modes, we forget our real true self, right? And the analogy being used is just as the fire in the wood is covered till somebody tries to, get a spark, or, I don't know if you've seen maybe scouts and them, if you've been ever, like, how you can create fire by, what is that term used? I don't know, like friction. You can just create fire by friction of, sometimes of stone, of wood, whatever. So the point being made is that we are actually the eternal souls, but currently we are covered because we are under the influence of the modes of material nature, right? Just like fire is covered like that. Okay. And here, verse 17, then Gajendra actually prays to the Lord, please release me. Please release me from this. He says that an animal such as me has surrendered unto you, right? Certainly you will release me. So he has complete faith that I have surrendered to you and you will certainly release me. All of us also should take a lot of hope from this particular verse, where we see that if we turn to Krishna, if we surrender to Krishna, if we say to Krishna, Krishna, I have no other shelter than you. Whatever condition I am, whatever it is, I am yours. Please protect me. Please save me. And then have faith that Krishna will save us. Krishna will protect us. Okay. Text 18. Prabhupada in the purport is focusing on the fact that Supreme Lord is free from matter, but he also mentions how difficult it is to understand the transcendental but human like Supreme Personality of Godhead. We've already kind of touched on that, that when Krishna takes a human like form, fools deride him. Fools think that he's perhaps at worst, he is a great mystic yogi. That's exactly what happened with Duryodhan when Krishna showed him his partial universal form in the court. Duryodhan, in fact, got more infuriated and asked his soldiers to capture Krishna and put him in the prison cell. So, although he could see the Supreme Lord in front of him, he just took him as a mystic yogi. And that is what is happening in today's world also. Fools do not understand that this little boy who's come as a cowherd boy, who's playing with his friends, who is taking the cows out, is actually the Supreme Lord. How can the Supreme Lord behave in this manner? But that's because our perception is limited. We don't know that he can do what he likes. He's totally independent. He can be a young boy, he can be playing with the gopis, he can be playing in the Yamuna river, or he could be with a Sudarshan Chakra chopping off the necks of all the demons. He could do whatever he likes, right? Verse 19 talks about how the Lord reciprocates even with his devotees' material desire. So Gajendra is saying this, that after worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, those who are interested in the four principles of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation obtain from him what they desire. So that means that in Bhagavad Gita, if you remember the verse, it says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sathaiva bhajamyaham. The way you approach the Lord, he will reciprocate equally. If you go to the Lord with material desires, he will fulfill your material desires. So then, what then is to be said of other benedictions? If he is happy to fulfill your material desires, then think about if you go to him with pure spiritual desires, just asking him, begging him, let me become your devotee, let me please serve you. Why will the Lord not fulfill that desire? Right? Verses 20 to 21 talks about how the difference between aspiring devotees and pure devotees. Pure devotees never ask the Lord for any benediction. So Gajendra is pointing it out. He says, I know that the pure devotees do not ask for any benediction, but I am here in danger. I'm in danger now. I have no other recourse than asking your help. And Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita, in his purpose, in his classes, that if you want something, whether you want something or whether you want nothing, in any condition, it is best to take shelter of the Lord. Right? Even if you want something, it is best to take shelter of the Lord. And if you don't want anything, you just want service, take shelter of the Lord. So, whatever condition it may be, you pray to Lord Krishna because he will fulfill. He is completely full in everything. He is the original cause. He is unlimited. He is the only one who can fulfill any of your desire, whether they are material or spiritual. So Gajendra he's accepting that I'm not at that stage right now of a pure devotee where I have no desires. Because my life is in danger, I am praying to you now to protect me, to give me shelter, right? Obviously, we'll see further that Gajendra, he doesn't want the body of an elephant anymore. He prays, but he wants to be protected, but not in the current body. He doesn't care about the current body anymore. So text 20 to 24, again, text 20 to 24 talks about, let's see the breakdown. It talks about how the Lord is the supreme source of everything. So Gajendra goes back to talking about how the Lord is the supreme source of everything. Everything emanates from him and returns to him, but he's ever transcendental. Um, Beautiful verses, beautiful prayers, he says, Gajendra says. He's neither demigod nor demon, neither human nor bird or beast. He is not woman, man, or neuter, nor is he an animal. He is not a material quality, a fruitive activity, a manifestation, or non manifestation. He is the last word in the discrimination of not this, and he's unlimited. It's so beautiful, these prayers where, if you think about it, Gajendra is saying, he's not this, he's not this, he's not this, he's not this. Who is he? What is he? He's unlimited. He is the supreme. You cannot put him in any kind of, how do you say, what's the right word to use? Group, in any kind of group, you know. He's over and above all of these things, right? Um, and in this verse, text 25, is where then Gajendra says, he says that I want to be protected, but I do not want to live anymore in this body. After the attack of the crocodile, he says, what is the use of an elephant's body which is covered externally and internally by ignorance? So, point to take home from here is, when we are taking shelter of the Lord, we are not asking for protection of our material body, our material consciousness, our material facilities or opulences. When we are surrendering to the Lord, what we are asking Him is, protect my soul, protect my consciousness so that I never forget you. That is what I am praying for. So Gajendra is simply saying that, he says, I simply desire eternal liberation from the covering of ignorance. That covering is not destroyed by the influence of time. So what he wants is that he wants to become a devotee of the Lord. Prabhupada in his purport says, he talks about how a spiritual master is so important. So Prabhupada says that, and he gives the translation of what we recite every time, Om Ajnanatimirandasya. He says, I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who with the torchlight of knowledge has opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance. Although one may struggle for existence in this material world, to live forever is impossible. One must understand, however, that this struggle for existence is due to ignorance. For otherwise, every living being is an eternal part. Understanding that I am eternal, I am the soul. Why am I struggling in this material world? Why am I fearful of death? Why is it that I think death to be the final chapter, whereas actually death is the beginning of another chapter? So when we understand these things, then that is when the darkness of ignorance is removed. And who can do that? We can't do it on our own. That is why we need the guidance of spiritual master. The spiritual master comes in the physical form, like how Srila Prabhupada and our other acharyas are. And then we have the book Bhagavad. So we have the person Bhagavad and we have the book Bhagavad. And both are giving us the same teachings, the same lessons, right? Text 26, Gajendra is now praying not for release from matter. So he says he wants release from material life, right? And he knows that the only person who can give him release from material life is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nobody else can. Nobody else can take you out of the cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. Nobody can. I'm sure you must have come across this statement many times in the Bhagavad Gita or in other places. The only person, all the demigods can give you various kinds of benedictions. They can give you material opulences, they can give you all of these things. If you remember the story of Hiranyakashipu, when he did all this austerity, and when Lord Brahma came to him and Hiranyakashipu asked for what? Eternal life. And what did Lord Brahma say? I myself don't have eternal life. How can I give it to you? Right? So the only person who can give you eternal life, who can take you out of this cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death, is the Supreme Lord. And so Gajendra is now seeking shelter of that Supreme Lord because he wants to come out of this material life. He's no longer interested in this material life. Um, Text 7 is again, he's offering his obeisances, and Prabhupada says in the purport, Prabhupada describes being free of envy and other impurities and developing clear vision. The king of the elephants, Gajendra, simply accepted that there must be someone who has created this cosmic manifestation and has supplied its ingredients. Right? So this should be admitted by everyone. So we have to understand that there is a much higher power. Obviously, Prabhupada talks about, and he uses the term rascals. I'm not using it, he does it. But he says these rascal scientists who think that the the Big Bang is what created this world need to understand that there is somebody much higher than that. And Gajendra actually is praying to that superpower, that super soul. He's praying that, he says that only by, of course, he's praying for, let me let me come out of this, and then Prabhupada writes in the purport, when one is freed from the modes of ignorance and passion, one becomes free from the lowest qualities, karma and lobha, and at that time one is able to then perform devotional service or bhakti yoga, by which then one becomes free of the results of fruitive activities. Okay. Text 28. Okay, I think we are okay for time. Text 28. Again, here, Gajendra is praying to the Lord and saying to the Lord that you are capable of protecting those who surrender to you. And so he says, you are the controller of formidable strength in three kinds of energy. You appear as the reservoir of all sense pleasure and the protector of the surrendered souls. You possess unlimited energy, but you are unapproachable by those who are unable to control their senses. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. So these entire set of verses are just prayers by Gajendra. In every verse, he is talking about the glorious potencies of the Lord, or he's talking about how he himself is unintelligent to understand him, but how, because Krishna is so merciful and compassionate, even though I don't have the qualification, you will still be able to protect me because I am taking shelter of you. Like that. Yeah. Mm. I just want to read this particular thing where Prabhupada in the purport, it says that once while he was giving a class, this is from somebody else, I think it's not in the purport. It says that once when Prabhupada was giving class in February 1976, he says that Prabhupada says this: Krishna is always kind, but when he sees that you are very eager to grow to Krishna, he calls just like he explained to Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, because you are my dear friend, I am just disclosing the most confidential part of knowledge. See, again, here we are talking about two things: your sincerity, your endeavor, and then Krishna will reciprocate. You cannot just sit back and say that there's no point because no matter what I do, nothing will happen because Krishna, it's all in Krishna's hand. Yes, it is in Krishna's hand, but he wants to see your desire. He wants to see your endeavor. He wants to see your sincerity, your determination, and then he will reciprocate, right? Verse 29, Gajendra is talking about, yes, I was so attached to this body of the elephant, I have totally forgotten my true self. but now I take shelter of you. So he's accepting his shortcomings. He's accepting that because he was so taken in by enjoying his senses, he had totally forgotten his true self, and thus he did not turn towards the supreme when he was in that state of mind. You see, all of us, that's what we tend to do as conditioned souls. We have turned away from Krishna. We have forgotten our original self because we are so busy enjoying this body that we've received. But the moment we turn towards Krishna, just like how Gajendra is doing, he says, I have forgotten my true self, but now I am taking shelter of you. Lord Ram says that if anybody turns towards me and with complete sincerity says, yes, my Lord, for many, many lifetimes I have forgotten you, but now I turn to you. I take shelter of you. And Lord Ram says, I will protect that person. Lord Krishna says, I will protect that soul. So, Gajendra is now turning. He's taking complete shelter. Um, I think, okay, okay, that's fine. And then from text 30 to 33, which is the last few verses of the chapter, um, is when Lord Hari will save Gajendra. So till here, Gajendra was praying, he was taking shelter of the Lord, he completely surrendered to the Lord, he humbled himself, he realized that I cannot do anything on my own, it is only the Lord who can protect me now, right? And so what happens? Suddenly he sees Lord Hari. The Lord appears seated on his carrier, Garuda, right? And Gajendra says, despite his pain, Gajendra says, O my Lord Narayan, Master of the universe, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So, although he was in so much pain, as soon as he saw Lord, he did not forget to offer obeisances. Not only that, he immediately took a flower, a lotus flower, and he offered it to the Lord. Prabhupada said that whenever we go to the temple, we should try not to go empty handed. Krishna doesn't want very opulent gifts. And I'll tell you one incident about this wonderful devotee who unfortunately has left his body during COVID. But I used to see him every Sunday, he and his wife. Um, Many years back, when I used to do the service of doing kirtan from 3 to 6, I used to be sitting there in the temple room, and he would come. He would bring just, a little aluminium foil tray, and he would have perhaps a couple of flowers, one fruit, and he would bring it out of his bag. He would place it on that donation table that's in front of the altar. He would decorate the flowers and the fruit on this tray, and he would offer it to the Lord. He never ever came empty handed, ever. And Prabhupada says it's not too much to offer a flower, a leaf to the Lord. He accepts it. He says it in the Bhagavad Gita. So Gajendra, as soon as he took darshan of the Lord, immediately he took this lotus flower and he offered it to the Lord. And the Lord released Gajendra by getting his Sudarshan Chakra, and he killed the crocodile. Right? He killed the crocodile, he released Gajendra, and in the Purport, Prabhupada writes, from the description of Gajendra, he apparently was aiming at the supreme authority, although he did not know who the supreme authority is. He thought there is a supreme authority, but he didn't know who. And he was praying to the Lord, right? Um, and then in the purport of verse 31, I'm just seeing if there's any important points, but I think we've covered all the points. Just let me see where it is. Okay. Yeah. So when Gajendra surrendered, took shelter, immediately the Lord appeared. The Lord then released him from the jaws of the crocodile. He used his Sudarshan Chakra. He killed the crocodile, and Gajendra was released. And Yeah. Yeah, he severed the snout of the crocodile and freed the elephant while the devatas. Okay. And then we see when we read that there were all the devatas who were offering or, were obviously happy. Whenever Krishna performs such leelas, the devatas are always showering flowers and, offering prayers to the Lord. So that's it. But the point is that, yes, Gajendra was released, the crocodile was killed. I don't want to go into the next things, what actually, who is Gajendra, who is the crocodile, what happens, because that's a topic for the next chapter. So I won't go into those details. So, yes, we have completed this chapter. It is 1:09. If there are any questions or comments, maybe we have a couple of minutes for that. Is that okay, Dharmendra Prabhu?
That's perfect. I was going to suggest that because of you not being too well,
No, that's okay.
are you sure, Mataji?
Yeah. This is an allergic cough, so it doesn't annoy me as much, and it's actually getting better. But yeah, it generally happens after India if we are, because of the dust that's there. So yeah, it's okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
And thank you for giving this class as well.
Thank you.
Janukanya Mataji, would you like to ask your question, please? Hare Krishna. Janukanya
Hare
Mataji?
Krishna, yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you for a
Krishna.
wonderful class. There's so much rich information on this chapter. It's so beautiful. I've got so many things buzzing in my head. I've got two questions. Is that too many?
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. If sincere surrender, as we were talking about Gajendra, he really fought and then in the end he gave up in such a beautiful way. It can bring instant divine intervention
Mhm.
as we have seen with him. What practices or attitudes we can conjure up to help us truly let go in a moment of crisis?
Mm. It's not easy because our mind is such that in moments of crisis, we tend to forget whatever we have practiced. Of course, we have to constantly practice it. And I will just give you one example that I saw of this wonderful devotee that I met in Vrindavan. She's a German lady. She's given up everything. She lives in Vrindavan. She takes care of cows. She's dedicated to her cows. Whenever you talk to her, so let's say you say, so there was going to be some class in Krishna Balram temple. This is a few years back, and we said to her, Mataji, we were at her house for lunch, Prashad, and we said to her, Mataji, will you be coming in the evening for the class? And she says, Krishna willing. So anything that you ask her surrender was such, or her dependence or her shelter on Krishna was such that everything she would say, if Krishna desires, Krishna willing. So that I think is a practice that we all can apply. And then hopefully at the time of crisis, we may be able to remember. However, Prabhupada also said that at the time of death, it is very difficult, or it is at the time of crisis, sometimes it may be very difficult. But if you've done it throughout our life, then trust me, Krishna will remember it. So Krishna will come and remind you. But we can practice. And this is the way I think we can practice, is that whatever we're doing in our life, whatever we want to do, let's always remember that Krishna is the controller. And so let's, take shelter of Krishna, that if Krishna desires, if it pleases Krishna, if this is what Krishna wants, every moment like that.
Lovely. So you have to have good faith in Krishna.
Yes,
So
complete.
yeah, okay. Thank you so much. There's another one, yes. So when we chant, like sing like Govinda Damodar Madhava in a moment of fear,
Yeah.
what kind of shift inside goes through our thoughts, feeling, or how our awareness comes to life about? Usually there's a signal of rescue is happening. So uh even before the external situation changes, so what are the inner thoughts that will make some kind of changes of feeling good because you feel rescued in a way? Does it
Um,
make sense? Yeah.
I don't know whether I've got your question correctly, but I'll tell you what my understanding is. My understanding is that when you start taking shelter of Krishna, your situation may not change actually. Your situation may still be, from the external point of view, troubled and distressing. However, your consciousness changes. And because your consciousness changes, that situation doesn't bother you anymore.
Yeah.
So let's say there's danger, let's say there's fear, let's say there's something that's gone wrong, but because you have taken shelter of Krishna and you realize that whatever he is doing is definitely for my good, so your consciousness changes and that allows you to deal with this. It's not easy, I'm not saying it's easy, but it somehow gives you that strength, it gives you that courage to deal with all situations in, like Prabhupada says, that happiness and distress should not change the attitude or behavior of a devotee, right?
Mm.
So I think that's how I would answer your question, if that helps.
Yeah, of course. It's when you're frightened, we tend to want to say a prayer quickly, and then it could change the feeling inside because it
Correct.
relaxes you, and
Correct.
the thoughts are different. You feel good, and it
Correct.
actually gives you a signal of rescue that
Yes.
Krishna is there doing something for you. Yeah.
Correct. So what's actually changed is just your consciousness. The situation is still the same. The
Yeah.
fear factor is still there, but because you have now taken shelter of Krishna, your consciousness has shifted. And
Yes,
that's
and
what
you're
helps.
able to manage it,
Correct.
the good as the bad. Yes, thank you, Haribo. Thank you so much. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mataji. If we can all kindly unmute and say our three Hari Bols.
Thank you.
Haribo! Haribo!
Haribo.
Haribo!
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Patri Kripa Sindhu
Hindu Vacha Pachitanam Pavanebhyo
Hare
Vaishnavejo Namo Namaha
Hare
Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai
Srila
Srila
Prabhupada
Prabhupada Ki Jai Hari Haribo.
ki jai. Hare Krishna.